I've earned over six figures from online business in my early 20s, generated over 50 million YouTube views, and invested over 200K into the stock market. Now I break down the money lessons I've learned so you can grow wealth faster and reach freedom faster. Now in this video, we're looking at that average net worth by age in 2025. Now I'll show you the real numbers, right? The latest up to date, and why most people misunderstand these numbers and what you can actually do to reach these numbers and hit that financial freedom that you're looking for. Now, number one, a quick point, we're going to be looking at the median and not the average. Now, there's a huge reason for this, and it's the high income earners, people that are super wealthy, actually tip these averages so that it really doesn't reflect what that middle ground is for what people are actually making. So it's misleading in this case. Of course, it makes it look way higher, and the median is just a more accurate representation of what this looks like. Now, number one, and this is primarily from under 35, so we'll look at from 18 to 35. The median net worth is 39K. Now, most people in this group, you have to remember, right? Let's say 18 to 35, so a lot of people are in school, going to college, and what does that mean? Student loans, right? And what happens is you build up a lot of this debt, right? People go to school, they don't really know how they're going to pay for school, but end up taking out loans. And of course, these institutions are more than happy to loan people the money. And then they end up getting into a situation to where they owe a lot of money to Sally Mae, of course, right? So a lot of times this even starts out as negative net worth because people are still trying to pay back their student loans for such a long time. And obviously there had been talks in the past about student loan forgiveness, and it almost seems like it's thrown around all the time, right? And also during this time, majority of people are working a lot of entry level jobs. And of course, just generally, you have low assets. I mean, you come into this world, if you have no way to finance things, no one to help you out, you have to pay the price. A lot of times you have to take loans. Other people, of course, maybe go a little bit cheaper route and end up going to things like community college, right? But this is really a point in time where people are trying to build habits, right? The greatest thing you can do is build the habits. Things like automating savings, trying to avoid debt, and starting to invest super early, right? And especially, man, if you can avoid things like credit card debt and all you have are these student loans, man, you'll be in a decent position. But the median here is 39K. Now, number two, we move on to the 35 to 44 range, and the median net worth is 135K. So you see it jumps here quite a bit, almost 100,000 it jumps. And this is really a point to where, of course, a lot of people end up having families around this time, around 35 to 44, a lot of times even earlier, to be honest. And of course, depending if you're male or female, but you have things like a house, right? You have children, a car to get from and work, bring the kids to school. But a lot of times net worth in this case really lags because you have things like lifestyle upgrades that eat your income. And we know children are definitely not a lifestyle upgrade, but of course are not cheap to raise, right? And you need to be able to afford and have money to afford children. Now, this is a place to where, of course, yes, you have that lifestyle creep, and you just have to be careful, right? You have a lot of people depending on you, and on paper, yes, it looks like you're successful, but a lot of times people are just in debt, and, they're living paycheck to paycheck at this point. But I mean, 135K is not a bad median net worth at all, right? So you just have to be careful with your finances in this position. And again, you have a plenty more responsibilities that you have prior to that point in time. Now, number three, we have 45 to 54. And this is a lot of times when people's wealth really explodes. Now, the median net worth here is 247K. Now, this is where compounding really starts to show. Those people who invested super early and did it the slow way, maybe S&P 500, right? They're buying different index funds, maybe mutual funds, just retirement funds, investing into things like 401k, Roth IRA, all of these things, you really start to see their net worth blossom. And of course, we all know that magic number is when you have about 100k invested, man, your investments really start to snowball. Now there's two people can really have the same exact salary, but they end up in completely different positions, and it's really about the habits that you had earlier on, right? So there are some people, of course, that are living paycheck to paycheck. They're not saving any money for retirement or even emergency fund, and then they wonder why they end up in a tough financial situation. And then there are others who are a little bit more intentional with their money. They invest, they live off a smaller percentage of what they're making, and they just have a lot more freedom to do what they want to do and have a lot more flexibility than those that may be spending just from paycheck to paycheck. And this is really a period in time to where what you did in your 20s or 30s, really, it could be either a penalty or a payoff, depending on what you exactly did. But man, the consequence, whether positive or negative, will be there at this age. Now, if you don't want to be stuck at this median income forever, I put together a resource showing you how I built and scaled YouTube channels and grew my finances through these systems. Now, click down below to check out and learn more. 55 to 44. Now, this is the retirement age. Some people around here are going to retire. Now, the median net worth is 364K. Now, that's interesting, right? Because many assume by now that they'll be set, but this number is actually a lot of times a lot lower than what people need to actually retire. And you see now, right, there's a lot of people who are unable to even retire, right? Because things like retirement pensions are starting to be phased out as well. So you have a lot of people who get to this position to where they're older, they're looking to retire, and maybe they didn't invest anything or they didn't invest enough, and you get in a situation to where you hit the panic button. What am I going to do? Am I going to have to continue to keep working? And for a lot of people, it's probably going to be yes, you're going to need some type of job to hold you over, right? And a lot of times, the majority of people's wealth at this age is tied up in things like houses. And that's an issue too, right? Because houses a lot of times are not going to generate income for you. And although some people consider them assets, in this case, it's probably not going to bring you much unless you're planning to sell that house, right? And it's not in cash or in investments. Now, obviously, owning a home, it really depends on that investment, what your financial situation is. But again, real retirement is going to be in the form of assets that put money into your pocket, right? So a lot of people do things like stocks, right? You could have real estate, house hacking, all these types of stuff that can put money into your pocket. You can have different businesses. So this is a vital age in this ladder. And number 5, we have 65 plus. Now, the median net worth here is $410,000. And this for sure is retirement age for a lot of people. But this middle number might not be enough for everyone to retire and completely stop working. And of course, this also depends where you live, how much you spend per month. So there's a lot of factors that vary in here. But the averages are actually higher. And that's just because this is a small slice, of millionaires skewing some of these numbers. But really here, this is a time where you want to relax, right? Enjoy your life, probably go on vacation, ideally. Spend time with your family, just hang out, right? And a lot of times here, this is a position to where people are either, again, going to be paying for some of the mistakes that they made in the past or living off of that money that they invested wisely. Now, if you enjoy these types of financial videos and want to learn more, click this video on the screen. You won't want to miss it.